welcome everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's webinar. I'm really excited for this one. This is going to be done by one of our newer teammates, Anthony. Before I actually give over the reins for Anthony here, I just want to make sure that you are aware of some of our upcoming iForm Builder events. The first being that we do offer iForm Builder certification course. Now, we offer this to a public group, so anyone can sign up who's a Zerion Software or iForm Builder user. Anyone can sign up for those events, but we do in-house certification programs, and those can be offered online and on site. So if you're interested in that, just let us know. I'd be happy to give you more details on that. The real value proposition of that certification is that not only are you able to kind of understand and gauge what your users are going to know if they're going to be building forms, and you can feel confident that they have the know-how and best practices for that role. The second event that we have up and coming is our Power User Summit. Now, this is the second year that we've done it, and it's been an awesome experience for users from all different verticals coming and being able to present on what they know and how they've built a fantastically dynamic workflow with iForm Builder. So both of these are actually links, and in the next 24 hours, or actually the next 48 hours, I'm going to be sending out an email to you that'll include this PDF and all of these links attached. So if you want to learn more about these, you can. I'll also be including the recording. So you can, if there's anything that you want to revisit, then that's a great time to do so. Or if you want to share it with someone who's not able to attend today, then you can send them that link. And at this point, I'm going to hand over the reins.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anthony Marchio, and I'm a Senior Account Executive here at Zerion Software. As Barrett said, I'm relatively new to the Zerion team, and while I might not have all the answers for you today on this webinar, what I do have are some great examples of groups that we're currently working with who are asking the right questions around how to accelerate their mobile workflow. Full transparency here, this won't be your Tonight Show top 10 list. This will be a little different. As I sat down and developed this content, I noticed some common themes throughout that you'll see, and that these examples went beyond just using the iForm Builder platform, but really went into tasking the Zerion Software team and our professional services here to really augment and change how these companies were looking at their data collection and data management processes. So I mentioned it just a moment ago. Here at Zerion Software, we believe in accelerating your mobile workflow. And what does that mean exactly? As our CEO so eloquently puts it, it's eliminating monkey work, inefficiencies that you see that exist all around you in the workplace. You've seen them, the times you've had to take unnecessary steps to complete what you thought was a very simple process, the bottlenecks that happen for approvals for a process, duplication of effort, duplication of data entry, information being siloed off in different systems and not being able to talk to each other. The list can go on and on. And so what we wanted to focus this webinar on today is how we could save you $1 million, how we could identify some of these inefficiencies and some of these workflow processes that may be broken or can be improved upon, and show you how those improvements will add up to $1 million a year for your business. And so what's $1 million a year really mean to your business? What is it costing you? Is it, spending too much time using multiple tools, signing in one system, signing in another system, trying to copy information back and forth? Is it having too many developers dedicated to trying to get a single project done when those developers' hours need to be spent on another project that has priority? And what we've really seen in some of our workflows is around compliance and avoiding fees associated with inspections. How much can your company afford to lose in brand value in addition to whatever fees that would be incurred for a violation of any sort of safety, environmental impact, or God forbid, like a food safety issue where someone actually gets sick. Uh, you know, the way that we can help our customers avoid these issues and improve some of their efficiencies is really where this $1 million is going to be derived from. So I'm only going to ask you all one question, and it's because I want to make sure you're paying attention. We're going to launch a quick poll, and I just want to see from you all, where do you think in your organization some of these inefficiencies might exist? Give you a moment to fill it out, see if anyone's paying attention.
Some people are.
Hey, there we go. That's all I asked for.
So it looks like over 80% have now voted, and it looks to be a lot of results with the poor information workflows. In just a minute, I'm actually going to launch the results so everyone can see what fees and funds are going in places that they don't really necessarily need it to. For those folks who selected other, I would love to hear what those other funds are, and if you want to put it in the question chat box, that would be super helpful for us. So at this time, I'm going to close the poll and show those results. So if you want to talk on it at all, I mean, is this what you imagined it to be?
That's typically what we find in most of these, and you'll kind of see that theme across these customer examples here, is folks see their information flow and folks know their data collection process very well, but they don't know how to change it. I'd ruin the parable right now if I tried to tell it to you, but there's some great stories around tradition and why sometimes tradition and archaic processes are a bad thing. You want to break them, but you can't because you don't know anything.
Right. So we're really focusing on creativity, huh?
Yes, and that's really, yeah. If I want you all to gain one thing from today's, because I don't expect you to remember everything. I'm not going to remember everything I say today. But if you're going to remember one thing from this webinar today, is I want you to come away with some sort of idea and just have your mind open to there's a better way to do this process, and it is possible to change. You're not stuck.
And we did get another other definition, and they said poor scheduling of manufacturing processes, and that's great to know and great to learn. So thank you for that participant for
yeah, thank you so much. We don't have any examples that speak specifically to that today, but if you want to reach out to us afterwards, I'm sure we can find some examples for you.
I'm confident that we could send something for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the results and give you back the rights to present.
Right. So our first example here really centers around how you could structure the iForm platform, the iForm Builder platform, dynamically and eliminate some steps that would exist on just a normal paper form. And these are our smart form controls. So through this, data that you're capturing is going to automatically populate additional information later in the form based on those previous inputs. The example here is a school, major university. I've withheld names throughout the entire presentation, but a major university with a lot of lab facilities that required inspections for both state and local compliance, as well as university compliance to make sure that if labs were being used, that they were meeting standards and criteria in order for safe use, for different kind of forgive me,
safe use. I mean, the worst thing in the world is to have students become injured because of lab equipment, and I think that's a big piece with this. And not just the university that actually did this, but there was a larger portion, a larger organization, a government organization that reflected very similar of a workflow based off of what this university did.
Yep. And so where Zerion Software was able to come in and help the most is not only with the smart form capabilities, but really showing them the approval workflow that had previously taken multiple weeks was now reduced to hours. In addition to that, if ever an external audit came, prior to that, they were scrambling around trying to get all the documentation together, again, being stored in different silos. Now, all this data being centralized, the external auditor came in, they clicked the button, ran the report, and handed it to them, and sat there and smiled. From there, and you'll see in each bottom corner here, I highlight some of the technologies used on the iForm Builder platform and how we were able to optimize it for them. Our next story here is around the workflow automation. I mentioned it previously in that last slide as far as having the approvals dropped from a time span of weeks to a time span of days. Here, we really look at the power of being able to dispatch information from a centralized location to field teams, eliminating the time they spend behind the wheel driving to and from home base. How much time would be saved of your field teams if they didn't have to report into the office every day to get their daily dispatch?
So you're telling me that with this workflow, I no longer have to go to the office to get the information. I'm able to just automatically wake up in the morning, gather who I have to go see, get the directions on where they're located, know who I'm supposed to talk to when I get there, and never have to go to the office.
Yep.
Perfect.
Exactly that. And as someone who lives in the Washington, D.C. area, not to brag about it, and it's certainly not something to brag about, but I think we're in like the top 3 as far as worst commutes and traffic overall. So if I could save that time off my day, I know that's a victory for me.
And now, I know you're going to get to this, but I'm going to jump the gun here. So you tell us how much they were able to save for that preventative maintenance. Is it more than that, or that exact number?
I wouldn't call it that exact number. They gave us that estimate as on a per region basis. So this was a perfect example of a project that was deployed in, I believe it was the Southwest region for this company. Again, large wireless ISP. I can't tell you which one, but there's only 4 of them, so you can guess, and you've got a 1 in 4 chance of being right. So they deployed this in the Southwest region, saving the $250,000 per year. As they deployed it to the different areas now, that scalability, the ability to roll it out enterprise wide with the standardized, I believe it wasn't just the 250 per year. I believe it was hitting multiples well beyond how many different regions they had.
Great. I mean, that's very impressive.
And the thing that I enjoyed most about this, since I do have a small background in my younger days of being in the construction field, you always see primes and subs arguing with each other over work completed, how the work was done, proof the work was completed. And through this standardization of their workflow, they were able to require their subcontractors to input the same data as their internal teams, so that when that work was completed, it would not be able to submit without capturing all the same data, again, standardized across both platforms. And the metadata captured when the user submitted the record or started the record was able to report to them time and date, lat and long, the user that submitted it, as well as the compass direction and altitude. So if they made the claim they were at that site, there was no argument, they were at that site. Our next topic we're highlighting are SQL Server data pipe. Now, what this does for a lot of our customers who have a centralized, SQL Server for their data coming in from a lot of different directions, what we found is that this particular engineering firm, an example, had a team of 5 individuals who were scrubbing and massaging the data as it came in to make sure that the data had proper data columns, that data from different forms wasn't crossing over, and what was traditionally a very slow and just painful process. I mean, the time from the time data came in to the time they were able to run their reports was a matter of days. And now you imagine in disaster response, you need that information in as real time as possible. It's not going to be sufficient to take days to respond to an immediate need for someone in an area of no connectivity with any sort of disaster just happening. So what SQL Server Data Pipe does for them is allows them to take those developers off of the data scrubbing process and automatically integrate that data, automatically be able to report on it. Now, all the way from their field level all the way up to headquarters, they're getting real-time data, real-time insight based on the data captured in the field.
So how do you think those 5 developers feel about losing a job?
I wouldn't say they lost a job. I'd say they were, if I know any developers, my younger brother's a developer himself, they always have multiple projects. So if anything, I think they were probably grateful that they were able to go focus on something that probably had a little higher priority. And a developer's scale of stuff that they like to do, I'm sure data scrubbing isn't high on that list. So from there, what I want to talk about is the white label capabilities. And it's a little bit more than, just going internally and saying, hey, look, I made this. it it really helps with the uh, version control and in addition to being able to add users, drop users, really in any sort of custom integrations that you might have with your backend systems. Simply having a version update from the iForm Builder platform would not interrupt any of those integrations.
So let's take a backseat with the white label a little bit. Can you tell me about this food safety scenario? And then that would be great to kind of jump in and then see why was this white label so beneficial to this specific workflow?
That's perfect. I completely skipped the context on that. And so the organization we're talking about here, you see with the big X through Chipotle, we've worked with many large food manufacturers that have franchises all over the world. Chipotle is not one of them. I'm sure they would have enjoyed being one of them so they could have tracked down any one of these multiple instances of food safety that they've had issues with over the past couple months. So what they were able to do is not only track the consistencies with their product and the food safety and the safety associated with their product, but they were also able to track things outside of the food safety, which if you are operating 40,000 franchises across the world, you're going to have some issues with consistency in branding, consistency in marketing. So all these things you're not going to be able to act on unless you get that information in real time. Or looking at a report a month later isn't going to allow you to make changes to take effect on that. And so what they were able to do, and the reason this particular customer chose the white label option, is as they pushed this down to the different franchises, they didn't want the franchises to see something not associated with the brand. They didn't want the franchises to see, oh, this is a third party, something we didn't come up with. So by giving the different franchise names their each own white label, they were able to give them a little bit more ownership, give them a bit of the, okay, this is the company tool that the company developed and that this is going to be standardized across all the franchises. I know if I have questions and there's another franchise owner that I know of the same franchise, we can kind of work through it.
And I think I read this great article the other day, and I shared it with you and Ryan about why the white label makes so much sense. And a lot of times people think that they're always going to build their custom app. And that's, in theory, that's great. But what we've done with the iForm Builder platform and what we've spent the last 5-6 years on isn't an easy replication. And so that's where I think this group found the value in seeing that they can still customize the iForm app, but the data collection is going to be standard. and everything that works so well in the iForm Builder platform, they don't have to reinvent the wheel for. So any and unique customizations, like maybe they have a different barcode scanner that they want to use, can be in that white label. And so the money is really being saved because you don't have to build from the first stage up. We've already built the tough part for you. So it's the simpler things that are going to be much easier, I think.
Yes, that's a great point, and I do recall reading that article, and the thing that stuck out most for me is, focus on your core business. Don't spend time. You don't need to hire and pay a development team to maintain and release different versions as iOS is updated or different Android platforms are updated, having to then turn around and continue that development and support. Let us take care of that. You focus on your core business. Let us customize the app to your need, and let us worry about the heavy lifting on the back end. So looking at the partners again, talking about how we integrate well. Barrett mentioned the barcode scanners. There was an example on there about the blue therm temperature uh, thermometers integrating. We have formed a very unique partnership with ESRI and both their ArcGIS and ESRI Collector platform that allows both our systems to talk back and forth seamlessly. And so what that means to you is less of that duplication of effort that we were talking about before. We really get down to now, I don't need to sign into multiple systems. Now I know that the data captured in iForm, I'm going to be able to pull up when I look in my ArcGIS online platform. And where this comes into example is one of our engineering customers in the California region. I don't know how many of you all are familiar with CEQA, but it's the California Environmental Quality Control Act. But what they are responsible for is identifying any sort of environmental impact on development projects, anything that involves construction, moving ground. And what had traditionally been a manual process that then their field teams had to turn around and manually input this information into their ArcGIS platform. I mean, they were eliminating up to 2 or 3 hours of additional processing per day, which any of you in that engineering field would know. That data entry time is not billable hours. Those hours in the field, you don't get to charge back to the customer. So there is some definite real cost savings there. And one other thing I wanted to touch on with the integration there, again, being in the remote regions of California, and they do exist. I was there this summer, and once you get south of Monterey in the Big Sur area, there's no cell phone coverage. I don't care who you have, but that offline first assumption allowed them to capture all that data and not worry about that data being lost before they were able to reach a connection again. Because the last thing you want to do is duplicate work for work you've already done. Our final example here is a great partner of ours. I only wish I could say their name, but again, I've stayed consistent throughout, so I won't. But they started with us on a very small scale project. I think it was almost an experimental type environment where they weren't sure if it was going to be the right platform. But through the deployment of this one project, they found out that they were capturing some incredible data through both the different features like the barcode scanning. It was they were tracking inventory, food products coming on and off of airplanes, and as they dove further into that project, they realized that the flexibility of the form allowed them to deploy it in other areas of the business. So looking at their daily operations, daily checklists, different safety and security, as far as scanning badges with QR codes to make sure that the employee who said they were that person was actually that person. Even as far as HR onboarding and different training methods, they were able to deploy through the iForm Builder platform. And now where this really impacted their bottom line is instead of, we went over 5 different examples there. Instead of paying 5 different software vendors and having 5 different things to remember about 5 different platforms, now they have one platform. They have, I believe, more than one administrator, but they have their people that know how to flex the muscle of the platform, and they've lowered the speed or the need to train their end users on multiple systems. And Barrett, I think you were involved with some of the training, and forgive me if I'm incorrect, the onboarding for that one, or am I thinking of another project right
There was another project that you mentioned earlier that I was a part of that process, and it was taking the time and introducing the new users on how to build forms, but also just how to use the iForm app. It's such a simple app, but for some folks who aren't necessarily technologically savvy, it takes a few minutes to get accustomed to it. But having that support in place in the very beginning is a huge impact on how to save money and how to be able to support your users. One thing that I don't think we mentioned here yet about supporting your users is that a lot of times through the different certification courses and whatnot, I mentioned this, but you always need to give your users a way to contact someone if they're running into problems. So whether it's a phone number or it's FaceTime, and I know one organization here does FaceTime a lot, but you need to give a point of contact so that problem can be solved in a timely manner, and so that you can save some money with that. But that support and that contacting support is a must-have with this too.
And I don't want to digress too much off the slides because actually I'll end up talking for 30 minutes and not remember any of it. But what you said there with giving the power to the end users to contact the headquarters if there's any issues or any questions, you also have the ability to give the end users power to create their own forms. You don't need to be the keeper to the keys of the castle. If you give your end users the ability to create their own forms and create their own workflow, you might find something that you didn't even realize exists, but that person knows is that monkey work that we described earlier because they're in it every single day. And they see themselves taking 7 or 8 steps when in reality they only need to take 2. So that's, and that speaks to the flexibility and, getting that certification, because if they know the power of the platform, they know that it's really just having the correct mindset and looking and finding those inefficiencies and how to fix them. So I did mention before that we weren't going to have the top 10 list, but as I went through it, I was like, well, I got to deliver on the top 10 list. That's what we've been promising you before you signed up for the for this webinar. So
unfortunately, we don't have any jokes to go.
No, I am nowhere near that funny. I think I'm that funny, but as my wife tells me, I'm the only one. So we'll just exactly. The applause track must have broke on that one. I don't know what happened. Yeah. So getting back to the beginning, looking at those smart forms, not only looking at just what the iForm Builder can do for you, but how the iForm Builder can change the way you're capturing that data and speed up, that process. Again, don't take 4 steps when you can take 1. The workflow automation. We've seen examples, and I don't know if we highlighted it enough before, but of the our manhole inspection that we always use as an example. Say there's an issue that now needs to be sent out to the repair team to fix. Instead of that, coming in, waiting in a queue, having someone look at that queue and dispatch it out to someone, we could look at where that person is going to be typically and automatically dispatch that to their queue. They wake up in the morning and they say, all right, well, here are my 5 places I need to be today based on me being in this zip code.
And off of the workflow automation, I've said this so many times to you today, but one of the best ways to kind of eliminate any kind of user control is to essentially build a new sign up page. So if you ever have anyone who wants to start a new project with iForm Builder, but you don't want to have to go in and add that user every single time, you're able to create this great page where they put in their email address and a username, and then by the time that they create that username, you'll automatically assign, like, let's say 4 different forms, so they can start testing those forms to see if iForm Builder is right for them. So this is one easy way to start actually expanding the platform to go into having the standardized software that I know you're going to get to in the top 10, but it's the workflow automation and the standardized software kind of go together with that one workflow.
Yep, I agree. The single sign-on, we didn't have an example where we touched on it, but we do have groups that are using that, utilizing their Active Directory, giving users access with a simple one-touch. The SQL Server data pipe, I am not familiar with the actual administration of SQL Server, but I've heard the horror stories already from folks in their prior state to their current state using the SQL Server data pipe. And as much as changing one data column was enough for them to then have to turn around and spend multiple hours in SQL Server to map out that data column correctly prior to using the SQL Server data pipe. Now it's all happening automatically. Again, on to bigger, better projects, not the manual administration. The white label, touched on a couple different reasons. I think, again, Barrett highlighted it, the buy versus build. Could you take what we've done and build a similar platform to exactly your specifications for your organization? Sure, but it might take you 6 months. It might, or longer. It might require 6 to 10 developers to stand up and then 3 developers to maintain. Why burden yourself with that level of investment when you could turn around and, again, focus on your core competency of your business and let us do the heavy lifting for you? The API integrations, while I didn't highlight them on the any of the examples here, for any of you that are familiar with them, you'll see these again are ways that you're creating steps to eliminate data extraction issues, systems talking between each other, and really just again getting into the power of what the platform is capable of.
And I think you did touch upon it when you said that those users would wake up and already have their assignment sent to them. So a lot of times that's done with the API, and so that's part of that workflow.
Perfect. See, I told you if I was talking more than a half hour, I'd already forget half the stuff I said. The ESRI integrations. I mean, this is huge. As we like to say, or as ESRI likes to say, that they're involved with the where. That's the world they live in. With iForm Builder, we're involved with the what. Let us solve the what. There are certain things you can capture on the ESRI tools, but let iForm Builder take your information the rest of the way. That's standardized software. Again, don't pay for 5, 6, 7 different systems when you have the tools, you have the knowledge. And if you don't have the knowledge and you want to task us with the knowledge, we have examples of where we've done this and can do it for you. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Gnosis. Now, there's a few things we touched on in here that, while I didn't highlight Gnosis itself, Gnosis is the driver behind it. As we like to say, the iForm Builder is our front end. Gnosis is our back end. Gnosis is what allows us to do all these amazing things for you, like the workflow automation, like the SQL Server data pipe, like the different API integrations. Everything that you see here is because of Gnosis. And you go ahead. Yeah, I think we'll have some more information on that coming up. What was traditionally an internal tool for us is very soon going to be something that our customers are going to be able to utilize themselves and create those workflows.
Well, I was just going to say we have a couple different videos on it. We've had past webinars. If you are interested in learning more about Gnosis, knowing that we kind of think of Gnosis as a data refinery. So you're able to bring in multiple data sets, not just iForm Builder, but let's say you're using an ODK and you want to bring that data in, you want to bring iForm data in, and maybe there's, let's say, another tool that you want to have that data set come in. You're able to bring all three of those data sets in, and then you can refine that by either maybe manipulating it or changing the data column name, so editing it, removing portions if you need to, but it's that data processing as well as data storage. So Gnosis is a great tool that if you're interested in anything that I just said, then we'd be happy to send you more information on Gnosis.
And finally, drum roll, the top 10, the number one way that we see is the way for you to save $1 million is just asking the right question. Nothing here that we were able to solve for our customers wouldn't have been possible without someone in that organization asking themselves, how can I make this better? How can I streamline this? How can I eliminate the most painful part of my job that I have to deal with every day? And so looking at it through those lenses are really going to help you figure out how you fix it. I mentioned it at the beginning of the call. Zerion Software, we believe in accelerating your mobile workflow. Everything that we've done and everything that we've built into our platform is how can we support your field teams and how can we allow them to capture good data much easier.
So one of the things you touched upon was the fact that they should ask that question, how can I make it better? Well, what if I'm a customer and I'm asking how can I make it better? Do you know of any services that Zerion Software has to offer that would help make that process easier?
And so you're 100% hit the nail on the head. Our professional service team, with our knowledge of the platform and with our experience in helping other companies with their workflow, we're available to you. What we will do is come out to your site and let us walk a day in your shoes. As we say here in my next slide, we solve data problems. That's our core business. So let us come out to you. Let us look at your core business and what you're doing in your day-to-day, and we'll give you the insight. We'll help you map out where some of these inefficiencies exist and how these processes can be improved. In addition to that, we're not only going to give you the ideas, we're not just going to give you a nice three-wing binder and walk away, say best of luck. No, we're going to show you what it would take to both implement and onboard iForm Builder into your organization and provide you the tools and training to take you not only from that step 1, but that step 3, 4, 5, and 6 as new projects come up and allow you to, again, really flex the muscle of the platform and move towards that standardization of your software. That's all I have. Again, I ask that you reach out to us, let us walk a day in your shoes, and I thank you all for your time. I think Barrett has a few more announcements before I let you go, and I hope to hear from you soon.
All right, well, thank you so much, Anthony. If you just want to go to the next slide. If you've attended our webinars before, I always just like to remind you of the different support options we have available. And if you haven't visited the Customer Success Center, that's definitely the first place you should go. All these other links will bring you to either our community forum or if you want to learn more about our project services, as well as any of the past live webinars that we've had. The last thing I just want to mention, I said this earlier on in this session, I really want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your schedules to join us and to join Anthony on his first webinar experience. So we definitely appreciate that. But in the next 48 hours, you'll receive an email from me with the webpage link that will have the recording of the session as well as the session PDF. If you guys have any other questions about what was presented, we are here and we are happy to help. And we just really appreciate all that you guys have done for us, and hopefully we can help you with your project. And have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, everyone.